Wishing everyone a very good day. I am Dr. Anushit Diwan, and welcome to session 2 about implementation of STEAM in early childhood curriculum. Today, I will just be speaking about an activity that all of us can use in our classroom to enhance STEAM learning. Session 1 was all about how is STEAM important and what is the significance and what are the big goals of STEAM that we should all be aware of. And I did share a few ideas about how STEAM lessons can be used in our daily lesson planning. But now I will specifically be sharing one activity that we all can use for our lessons. This might be a common activity, but uh, give me a minute. I'm going to share my screen, but it's really good STEAM activity. Right. Um, okay. So as you can see my screen, this is session 2,
Yeah, we can
STEAM
see.
implementation. Okay, lovely. Okay. So this is just a little bit about me and right. So we will be targeting very specific objectives today. Our first objective would be to learn to facilitate a simple activity, which is called building a bridge with young children. Our second objective would be to understand how to guide exploration without giving direct solutions or without giving direct prompts. And our third objective would be how can we use open-ended questions to promote inquiry and deeper thinking skills, which is a very important goal of STEAM. So let's just begin with the lesson plan. Now, this is a lesson plan that can be used for children from 4 to 6 years. But the best part is you can modify this lesson plan for any age group. So in my school, I have done this lesson. I have done this lesson with teachers to introduce STEM to them. I have also done the same lesson with students from primary and from secondary. So you can modify this lesson however you want to, but the overall objectives remain the same. If you're targeting a group of 4 to 6 years, your basic learning goals can be understanding engineering concepts like balance and structure, developing problem solving and teamwork skills, and introducing measurement and estimation using a hands on approach. So you can take these basic skills of structure, balance, measurement, using a scale. You can teach these basic concepts through this activity. Now, you can give it any name, say, for example, build a bridge challenge, and you can have an activity name. And these are few basic requirements that you will need. Now, again, depending on the resource availability, depending on your age group, depending upon your a bigger idea, the requirements can vary. But more or less, if you see, these are extremely simple things. You will need some ice cream sticks or craft sticks, some paper cups, some basic tape, sellotape or whatever, and straws, glue, and some marbles. You will also need a scale to measure the length. If you are focusing on that as a lesson plan, you can use that. And some pictures for about bridges that you can find online. So these are basic requirements. You can add more, you can add less. If you want to make it more complicated, you can even add glue guns or you can even add some other things as per your requirement. Um, This lesson can basically be, so this lesson plan is divided into 5 phases, and I will take you through each of the phase. The first phase is introduction and discussion. Now, during this phase, like I said, our goal is to make this extremely open-ended, to not ask direct questions, but to prompt students to thinking. So what you can do is for the first 15 minutes, like when your class comes in, you'll get them settled and all, and then you show them this picture and you tell them, what do you see? And they will all say, oh, we see some kind of a bridge. Now, again, depending on their level, they might not be able to identify a bridge, but they will all say, oh, it's a bridge. So you can basically talk to them about what are the different types of bridges, whether it's a suspension bridge, an arch bridge, a beam bridge, etc. These images can easily be found online. Next, what you do is you ask open-ended questions like, what do you think bridges are used for? Or have you ever crossed a bridge? Like young kids will know, I crossed a bridge. Oh, I know, I remember I went. They will have a lot of stories to tell. So you listen to them. And then you say, how did it feel? Did you feel safe? Was the bridge moving? Was the bridge strong? So they will all, oh, I went to travel over here and I had this bridge, or I see this bridge every day when I go home. So you can ask them basic questions. And after they have answered, you then tell them that, okay, class, we will now build our own bridge, and they will all get all excited. So you tell them, okay, we can build a bridge however we want to, but the basic condition is it should be able to hold a toy car. So you can give them any small toy car or anything at all in your classroom, and you can tell them it should not be very heavy. And you can tell them that, okay, you know what, make whatever bridge you want, but it should be able to hold this weight. That's the first phase where you introduce them to the concept of bridges. Now, for the second phase, which is the building phase, you actually give them time to build. You can divide your classroom depending on the number of students. You can divide your classroom into small groups and you provide them with the materials. And then the most important thing over here is because they're kids, they will directly start to play or touch the materials. But before you let them do that, you need to tell the students that within your group, you first think, how do you want your bridge to be? You first plan if they can maybe talk. I'm not sure they'll be able to like draw, obviously, but talk. I want my bridge to be long. I want my bridge to be tall. So ask them to discuss amongst their groups, how do you want the bridge to be? And then also ask them to discuss how can you make it strong. So again, I'm telling you, depending on the age group, the questions can vary, but the whole idea is you make it open-ended and not direct questions so that it can develop those kind of skills. You let them experiment with designs, you offer guidance, but you allow them to think independently. So that's the building phase. You give them all the time. It may not take 40 minutes, it might take an hour also, which is absolutely fine. Now, for third phase, which is testing and improvement, you ask them to actually test the bridge. So they once the time's up, the bridge is ready. Now comes the time for testing. So now again, we are not going to judge any bridge. We are not at the end going to say your bridge is the best, you get the first prize. That's not the goal of this experiment. The goal of the experiment is to develop skills. And it's not a competition, but at the end of it, they need to get some form of a feeling of assessment. So for that, once their bridge is done, you can take a small toy car and you can put it on the bridge. So you can go bridge by bridge. So you get the first group and everybody is watching that group, that bridge. You take the toy car and you put it on it. And I will show you images of what the bridges can look like. But when you put it, you see if it's able to hold the car or not. If it's falling, it's absolutely fine. If it's not falling, it's perfect. But you let them observe, you let them talk. Oh, the car is falling. Oh, the car is staying. The car is, not even, it's not being held even for a little time. So let them make these observations and then let them talk, let them discuss. And then you, once we've done all that, and you can ask people to, in groups, to talk about their bridge. So every group can be given a minute to talk that my bridge did not hold the car because it was not strong. What you can also do is say, for example, if a bigger car, just to motivate the students, if a big car is not being able to stay on the bridge, you can give them something small that so students will feel, okay, I was at least able to hold this much weight. So you talk to them, you discuss them, and then you even ask them, how can you improve? As we grow, we realize evaluation is a very important aspect of any research. So you have to build those skills at an early stage. How can you build that? Just ask the students, what were the weaknesses of your bridge? How do you think you could have made your bridge better? What was so good about this bridge that it was able to hold the weight? How could you have done things differently? So ask these open-ended questions. You can even support them by asking what happens. So, for example, if the bridge is able to hold a certain weight, you can ask the students, "Do you want me to put a car of a bigger weight and see if it's holding the weight or something? What kind of materials? Again, if they're really old kids, what kind of materials can we use to make the bridge stronger?" And then you can discuss some materials. You can show them if you have like, okay, this is maybe cement, this is wood, this is steel. These are different things that bridges are made up of. You can get that material science into this lesson by this activity as well. After we have done spoken about the testing, improvements, evaluation, it is reflection time, where this is again very important, each group or each child rather gets some time to reflect. What did you like about this activity? How was your experience? What did you learn? Would you like to do this activity again? How did you work with your group? Okay, and then you can then link it to a real life case. You can tell them, did you face any challenges while doing the bridge? You tell them that, you know what, engineers also face a lot of challenges. And then you can get a little bit about the history of a certain bridge, that the London Bridge was built in this years, and so many engineers were involved. And imagine they had to, it can hold the weight of so many cars. Imagine what they must have used. The bridge must have been so strong. So you can actually get a real life application. Or if there is a bridge in your country or there's a bridge in your city, you can get some history about that bridge and speak to the students. What's going to happen is kids will be able to relate to real life. So they will understand what is the whole purpose of their experiment because they are able to link it to real life. So reflection time is extremely important, and it can go about for 15 minutes or 20 minutes, depending. Last is assessment. Like I said, we do not have any formal assessment. There is no grading done. There is absolutely, because we don't need to build that kind of an environment where it's a grading system. Assessment can just be independent assessment by the teacher, where the teacher observes the participant, the teacher observes the groups, and the teacher gives independent feedback to students that, you know what, XYZ, you did very well, but I saw you were not very involved in your group. Next time, do you think you can participate more in your group? Or if some child who has been doing all the work and not sharing anything, so maybe the child can be given a feedback like, I saw you were very interested in doing the project, you were building the bridge very nicely, but you were not letting anyone build. You know, we have to help others and we have to work as a team so our work can become better. So such kind of independent assessment and feedback should be given to students by the teacher. So while the students are working, it becomes a teacher's role to observe every student and to make a note on that and to give them some feedback for improvement. Celebrate their strengths, also tell them what their weaknesses were. And if you don't give a positive feedback, it's pointless. So we have to give them a feedback so that they can improve. Any activity without a constructive feedback technically doesn't hold a lot of value. So independent, personalized, customized feedback should be given by the teacher. These were the 5 stages of this lesson. And at the end of it, this lesson is extremely important because no matter what the age group is, it will really build some critical thinking skills. They will be able to analyze problems. They will be able to predict which design will work best. When you show them the images of the bridges, give them some time to look at them. You can even have those images on the screen while they're working so that they can look at it and get some idea. So they will see on the screen there are 6 bridges. Which one should I make? So they're going to predict which one is easier, which one can I make with these resources, which one. You show them the toy car. This is the toy car. Which one will be able to hold the weight of the toy car? So they will start to analyze and predict. They will think creatively because you are giving them limited resources. Now, using these resources, they have to make a bridge. No instructions are given. All they have to do is make a bridge. So they will start thinking creatively. You will see, and I will show it to you in the end. You will see different shapes and sizes of bridges, but they all are a result of creative and critical thinking. They're going to use logic because you are going to show them some images. So it's not going to be that they're going to build a bridge that doesn't, like, it's completely off. It's not even considered as a bridge. They're obviously going to logically think because you will give them some idea as to what a bridge should look like. And in the end, they're going to collaborate. They're going to discuss ideas and solve as a team, which is again, collaboration is one of the most important things of collaboration and communication. When they're talking to you, when they're describing their bridge to you, they're even communicating, which is extremely important for STEAM. Things for teachers to keep in mind, this is a fairly basic lesson plan, but there are some things that we need to keep in mind. As teachers, we can get quite impatient and we are used to giving instructions to students. Okay, but this should be a non-instructional activity. It's extremely important because if you give direct instructions to students, they stop thinking. So we have to encourage exploration. We have to let students try different ideas. We should not give them direct solutions. If a student comes to you with a problem, Guide the student to the solution by giving guiding questions. You do not direct, Miss, my bridge is failing. What do I do? You do not tell the student, okay, you know what, make the bridge like this, it will not fall. No, that is directly giving a solution to the student, which is incorrect. We have to guide the student to coming to the correct solution. And how can we guide the students? By asking them open ended questions. Your bridge is falling. Okay. Do you think you have enough support at the bottom for the bridge to stay strong? So something like that. A direct question would be, you know what? Add more support at the base, then your bridge will not fall. That's a direct solution, which is incorrect. You definitely should allow students to make mistakes. I think this is one of the most important things. They will make mistakes, and we don't have to be critical of their mistakes. Let them learn through their mistakes. They will fail once, twice, but eventually they will get it. And it's as teachers, we often do this at times when we have so many students. We are unable to listen to everybody because we have to do so many things. But we should make sure that every student is heard. There will be some students that will be quiet at the back, not ready to work, not ready to share ideas. And as teachers, we have to motivate them to be a part of it. We have to motivate them to do something, to discuss their ideas, to talk with their group members and participate in the activity. And like I said in session one, unless you connect it to the real world, the activity becomes less meaningful. So, like I said, try and connect the concept of bridges to your city, your country, or a famous bridge in the world. Connect it, and then students will find that lesson more meaningful. Also, the next time when they're out, they will think of the bridge and they will be able to connect the class activity to the real world, which is one of the most important goals of STEAM. Now, like I said, I had this activity in my school and we had it for different age groups. This is one of the posters I created in my school, and it was a non instructional activity. This was for all teachers. So it was non instructional, and these were basically just the posters and that were given to them along with the materials. So if you see, there was a success criteria, which means, like in my case, because they were teachers, they were expected to hold a 2 kilo weight, and they had to design a bridge that could hold a 2 kilo weight. They were given these requirements, and these were the only requirements they could use. They had to deliver even sketches, which was planning. So at school level, you can ask children to talk. If they're unable to draw, they can talk and discuss their plan. But at a higher level, maybe they can sketch a basic bridge, which again gets the art part of STEAM into the activity. And the 4 C's of STEM. So whenever you discuss, you can always tell students that this activity, what will it help you do? This activity will help you build 4 C's of STEAM, which is critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, and communication. And at the end of it, you should be able to try and develop those things. And because I did this activity with teachers as coaches, but for teachers, we had some bonus points. Like if you can do this with your children also, like decorate your bridge, color your bridge, make it very beautiful, and then they will do all the coloring and all of that. That also gets the art part outside, and it's a beautiful way to even decorate a bridge that can later on be displayed in the school, in front of the school community, or to other school children. Like these are some of the examples of bridges that students have made. Obviously, all these are not my students. This one particularly was a bridge that was made by one of our student groups. And if you can see, it's completely different. They did not use any candy sticks or nothing, but they just made a bridge with just something like this. And it was able to hold a weight of this box. So this is one kind of bridge. Students, when you give them paper cups, students can make a bridge something like this. This also classifies as a bridge. This, something as simple as this, is also a bridge. Look at this. This is also a very, very well built, technologically advanced bridge, if I may say. Something as simple as this, with a toy car, it's still able to hold the toy car. This can also classify as a bridge. And something like this, if you have building blocks, just being able to balance the building blocks and to put the sticks over here so that it's able to hold the weight of a toy car. This might not, so they might have to have many, many such rows to be able to hold the toy car, but this is also a bridge. And eventually, this is also an example of a bridge. So if you see, you will be surprised with the same set of resources, same set of instructions. Students can really surprise you. They will come up with such creative ideas, and it'll be an absolutely good experience for them, hands-on learning and good STEAM implementation in your lesson plan with not a lot of talking and teaching. That was it. I think that was my time, and I hope this is helpful. I hope you will be able to use this in your classrooms. And if there are any doubts or any questions, you can probably write or comment or get back to Mr. Janaka or me, and I will get back to answering those questions. Thank you.